Good day, folks. I am Decadent Alvin Jumao-as together with my group members.
Objectives. At the end of the session, the students or the cadets should be able to first understand the obligation of ascertaining or following the rules stated in Rule 11 and 12, as well as understanding its importance. Conceptualize and familiarize the important terms used in Rule 11 and 12. Reflect and share their understanding to their co-students or co-cadets.
And we are here to teach you or to tell you or to expound what is rule number 11 and 12 of Call Reg. Stay tuned. Before anything else, let us first unlock the definition of terms. First is the leeward side. Leeward side faces away from the wind, sheltered from the prevailing wind. Next is the windward side. Windward side faces the prevailing winds, trades, or winds. Next is the sailing vessels, the most important one. Means any vessel under sail, provided that propelling machinery is fitted, is not being used. Next is the port side. Port side is the left side of the ship when looking forward towards the bow of the boat or the ship. Next is the starboard side. Starboard side is the right side of the ship and also facing the boat. Allow me to explain to you the section 2 conduct of vessels in sight of one another, rule number 11 application. So there's rules in this section applies to vessels in sight of one another, which means when we say about in sight of one another, there are more than one ship involved. So these rules also implies the following rules: the sailing vessels, the overtaking, the head-on situation, crossing situation, give action by giveaway vessel, action by stand-on vessel, responsibilities between vessels, and lastly, conduct of vessels and visibility.
So, good day. I am the Cadet Johnny Prime Jimabulay, and today I will discuss the rule 12, which is sailing vessels. So, when two sailing vessels are approaching one another, so as a two involve risk of collision, one of them shall keep out of the way of the other follows. So, first, when each has the wind on the different side, the vessel has the wind on the port side, so shall keep out of way of the other. So the port track rule is a part of international regulation for preventing collisions at sea, which is COLREGS. So that requires vessels with port wind to avoid each other and reducing the collision of risk. So second, when both have the wind on the same side, the vessel which is to windward and shall keep out of the way of vessels which is to leeward. So in this situation, the vessels to windward should keep out of the way of the vessels to leeward. So this means that the vessels to windward should take action to avoid a collision, such as changing course or slowing down. So the vessels to leeward should take action to avoid a collision, such as changing course or speeding up. So the third one is if a vessels to wind on the port side sees a vessels to windward and cannot determine the certainly whether the other vessel has the wind on her port or starboard side, so she shall keep out of the way of the water. So if a ship with a port wind sees another ship windward and cannot determine whether or other vessels has port or starboard wind, so it must avoid collision with the other vessels in accordance with the international regulation for preventing collisions at sea, so which mandates actions to avoid collisions. So for the purposes of this rule, the windward side shall be deemed to be the side of opposite that on which the mainsails is carried, or in case of a square rig vessels, so the side opposite to that on which the largest force and aft sails is carried.
Good day, I'm Decadent Ivan Gonzaga and I will explain the example scenario for the Rule 12, which is the sailing vessels. So first scenario, each of two approaching sailing vessel has the wind on a different side. So in this situation, we can use the port and starboard tack rule. So as we can see in the illustration, both vessels have the wind on a different side. So vessel A, which has the wind on her port side, must keep out of the way of the vessel B. Vessel A can alter course to starboard or to port, dependent on the wind direction. Vessel A shall take early and substantial action, while vessel B keeps her course and speed. Then, if a vessel A passes on the port side of vessel B, she shall pass at rather large distance not to fall without wind when a beam of B. Next scenario, when two approaching sailing vessels have the wind of the same side. So, as we can see in the illustration, vessel A is at the windward side and the vessel B is at the leeward side. So, vessel A and vessel B are approaching one another so as to involve risk of collision in accordance with Rule 12, which is the sailing vessels. When two sailing vessels are approaching one another so as to involve risk of collision, and when both have the wind on the same side, the vessel which is to the windward, which is the vessel A, and shall keep out of the way of the vessel B, which is to the leeward, which is the vessel B. Next scenario, two approaching sailing vessels, when wind side for one of them cannot be determined with certainty. So, if a vessel with the wind on the port side sees a vessel to windward and cannot determine with certainty whether the other vessel has the wind on the port side or on the starboard side, she shall keep out of the way of the other. So the Rule 12 emphasizes that while vessels should adhere to the call regs, they must also consider the specific circumstances and limitation of their vessels or the vessels involved to avoid immediate danger or collision. It highlights the importance of common sense and prudence in addition to following the established rules to ensure the safety of all vessels at sea.
Allow me to further explain the definition of terms. So, if this is your ship or your own vessel, and you are moving towards 000 to true north, the right side of the ship is known as the starboard side, and the left side is known as the port side. Now let us fit the windward and the leeward definition. So, if this is your ship, again moving towards north, the true north, so if the wind hits this side is called the windward side, and the shielded part here is called the leeward side. Further explain rule number 12, sailing vessels. Roman numeral 1. When each has the wind on a different side, the vessels which has the wind on the port side shall keep out of the way of one another. For example, this is your vessel A and this is vessel B, and the wind comes from the east. It is obvious that when the wind from the east hits the vessel or the sailing vessel, it moves towards the direction of the wind. So if this is a vessel A, they goes here because they are just simply sailing vessels, and they are, shall I say, depend on the wind. Now, this rule states that the wind on the port side should keep up with the way. So when the wind hits the port side, so the vessel B will stay out of the way, and the vessel A will resume its position. Now remember, you need a big alteration for this. Roman numeral 2. When both have the wind on the same side, the vessel which is to windward shall keep out of the way of the vessel which is to leeward. Now, if this is the wind from the east, and this is the two vessels, it's just give a scenario which the two vessels are, so let's say, just a little distance from each other. So if this is vessel A and this is vessel B, the windward side of the vessel is here. Now since this ship shielded vessel A, the wind coming from the east hits the windward side of vessel B, or the starboard side. Now since vessel B is the in windward side, she need to keep out of the way of vessel A. The vessel A must continue its position or course, while vessel B should stay out of the other vessel. Why? Obviously because unlike other ships propelled by a machinery, sailing vessels only depends on wind, which is the main reason of this application.